more identification here. Coleoptera, the beetles. Beetle subspecies is the largest in the insect world, and the big ones we're dealing with are the domestic. So the signs here is the cast skins, the fine frass, and they're going after feathers, fur, hair, silk, wool, felt, anything proteinaceous pretty much. They're a little voracious. The larva can really travel and do great damage. This is the varied carpet beetle, Anthrenus vermasi. I would say public enemy number 2 in historic New England. They're highly destructive. I already talked about them. The larvae are actually larger than the adults. And one of the key things to know about this is their sort of reproductive cycle. They are kind of seasonally driven. And so when they do emerge and they want to go to reproductive, they need to go out of the building and find flowering plants. And so they're kind of romantic that way. And so they need to go to those flowering areas, and then they need to get back in. And so they're extremely small, about the size of the head of a pin. And so they're hard to guard against with the building envelope. But it's something to be aware of, that when they go to adults, you can catch them with the pheromones, but if you didn't have the pheromones out, they'd be looking to get out the window if they just emerged, or get back into the females getting back into your protein collection, into your textiles to lay the eggs. These are all the same. These are all just different variations of the same type of pest. The buffalo carpet beetle, the black carpet beetle. I would say this is our second most important carpet beetle problem. There's some good examples of the castings. Thank you to the Peabody here. They've been kind enough to donate some of their samples of things that they found in their collection. There's some black carpet beetle castings here to look at. They have kind of unique larvae, unique to the varied carpet beetle. But again, they're treating these all in the same way, damaging the same types of collections. Another view of the black carpet beetle, the odd beetle. I wonder why I got that name. It just doesn't look like the rest. But again, back in the same types of collection. Got this funky flat top hairdo on the larva. The high beetle, larder beetle. Okay, now into moths. Here we go. Anybody familiar with this pest? Raise your hands. All right, see, what we're seeing is a major uptick. And if it wasn't for this pest, I probably wouldn't be standing here talking to you right now. It has had a major uptick in recent years. It is probably the #1 pest for historic New England, highly destructive. You never know it if you saw these adults flying around. They're really kind of drunken and not really good flyers. But when they get in there, man, it's unbelievable. Their signature is these sort of champagne-colored wings, and then the webbing that their larvae leave behind. Again, I've got a good example here at the end you can take a look at. Yeah, definitely our #1. And there's some question I'll talk about in a little bit, like why is that happening? Particularly in the greater New York City area, they're getting a huge blow up of these populations in recent years, and the greater Boston area is probably the #2. And I think per capita we're dealing with even more. Our population is so much less, but we're dealing with a lot. The webbing-closed moths, and talked to a lot of professionals who are wrestling with it. Here's an example of what that damage looks like. The classic webbing, but then also their frass takes on the color of whatever they're eating, so that gets kind of stuck in the web and kind of helps to camouflage it. And you can kind of, you have to know what you're looking for to find this. The next one, #2 moth for us is the case-making closed moth, kind of a kissing cousin. And one quick tip, if you're not sure if you have one or the other, you're pretty sure you've got this kind of a pest. The pheromone for webbing closed moth is also effective for case making. So it's kind of a twofer if you're not sure for monitoring for that. And so their sort of telltale is rather than leave the webbing behind, they create this little kind of case and their head pops out. It's kind of like a cocoon, but their head's out and they're feeding and moving, and they keep that little camouflage casing which adapts the color and look of whatever they're